everybody. Welcome back to Just Code It. Today we're going to be taking a look at text embeddings. We are going to examine two different types of text embedding, first starting with Ollama embeddings, which are ways that you can do this locally, and then also OpenAI embeddings. There's a few other ones out there, but those are the main ones. If you're not familiar with what embedding models are or embeddings are, it's extremely important in LLMs. It makes it easier to search the text semantically, and it allows you to store them in vector databases for a very efficient way of querying them later. So let's get started. Let's just define some text. This is just some lorem ipsum text that we have here, and then load your environment variables, which should have your OpenAI API key in it. And then you don't need any API key for Ollama. Just run the first cell. The length of the text is the only thing it should output. After that, we're going to take a look at the Ollama embeddings. To define it, you do Ollama embeddings and then pass it the model that you would like to use. Ollama has a couple different embedding models that you can download and run. This is a pretty big one. I'm not 1,000% sure on the dimension of it. Embedding models have different sizes to them. This can help them in general, as you get bigger with a bigger embedding size, the dimensions of your embedding model. I think this one's 1024 size, so it has 1024 degrees of freedom or dimensions to it. For embedding models, we're going to start with Ollama embeddings, and we're going to use, I don't know how to pronounce this, but this embedding large model. There's a few different ones that you can get off of Ollama, but this is a pretty good one that's similar to OpenAI's small embedding model. And then there's two different types of embeddings that you can do. You can do document-based embeddings, but you can pass it a list of multiple. As you can see, I'm just passing it the text twice. So you can pass it a list of like chunks of text. If you do some chunking, and then you can pass it all your chunks, and that will then be, it will give you back a list of the embeddings. If we run, this should be a length of 2. Yep. And then if we just take a look at one of the embeddings, the first embedding, you can just see it's just a list of numbers. This is the vector. And if we take the length of this, it would be the size of the embedding model. Yeah, 1024. So that's the size or the dimensions of your embedding model. And the next one is a query one. It just takes in a query string and gives you back a embedding for it. So it doesn't have the ability to do multiple query strings. I typically just use the embedding documents, and you can always just pass it a single string of text. But this is pretty good for when you're getting a chat input and it typically comes back as just a string. It's a lot faster to just do this embedding query and then pass it to your vector database to search. But there's just two different ways of doing it. They're essentially the same though. We run this. It's just going to give us the exact same thing. And then next up, we have OpenAI embeddings. If you have an API key, you can also just pass your API key to it. Or if you loaded your environment variables, it will be in your environment. And then based on the name, your OpenAI will then be able to grab it. So it just looks at your environment variables, but we do the exact same thing, essentially. You can also do it with this text document. So here I did the document, but I also didn't put it as a list, and it's going to pass back a bit of a different one. Let's actually see see what happens if we set a list. Okay, so yeah, that was actually incorrect. So now we have the embeddings, and then let's just take the first embedding down below, actually. This is just the list. So before, what happened was it considered the string as a list, so it embedded each individual character, I'm assuming. And that's why it was so many embeddings when we did it that way. Let's see the length, 100. Let's run down here and get rid of this list format. It's going to be somewhere around there. Yeah, okay, so yeah, embedded each individual character if you don't have it as a list, which makes sense. As another way of representing a string is just a list of characters. So make sure you put those if you're using the document way. And then that is it for text embeddings. Up next, we're going to take a look at vector stores, and then we're going to take the 2 last episodes, text splitting and text embeddings, and kind of group it all together into vector stores. And we might do a little mini project on that one, putting everything together and creating a little command line application, or just in a Jupyter notebook, basically taking a document, splitting it, embedding it, saving it to a vector, and then querying it again.
I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you next time.